Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brett Davis Unleashed. I am Brett Davis, coming to you from Coronado, California, at IQ Podcast at Attorney King Studios. My guest today is somebody that I've been blown away with for such a long time. And as you hear his story, you'll understand why. He's a great guy, Eric Hillman from Europa. How are you doing?
Good, Brett. How are you doing, man? This
Pretty good. We just need to,
the social distancing is a little bit crazy, but it's okay.
well, this isn't too bad though. I mean, because you're all over you're hard to get a hold of. You're everywhere still. I mean, you're still busy, aren't you?
Yeah, we're considered essential. So, of course, 60% of our customer base is gyms. So, the gyms are just slowly started opening. Georgia opened up Friday. Fortunately, we do service the grocery and health food store still. So, they're open. So we've been fortunate enough to still be shipping. It's less than what we have been doing, but we're looking forward to the gyms getting back open and hopefully following some kind of protocol so they stay open.
What's your thoughts? I don't know if you heard that the governor of Colorado wanted to shut down all the health food stores.
Well, I mean, again, it's a food service. I think that it's anything related to the fitness industry. I think it's anything related to, the big question was, why did Trump put it in the phase 1 project? Jim Worthington is on the President's Council of Physical Fitness. He's also chairman of the board for IHRSA, and IHRSA is one of the bigger equipment company conglomerates out there that supports the fitness industry. And I think, without the health and wellness, it's funny, for the last 10 to 15 years, our country has been saying, man, you can't judge people, being overweight is okay, being obese is okay. Now they say, hey, if you're obese or out of shape, you will die. They're not saying, hey, it's okay now. So I think that they understand that the healthy people are getting over the coronavirus. And I think that, the unhealthy people are not. And I think that was one of the reasons why Trump put it in phase 1. He knew people had to get back into working out. And what we see is this whole new wave of what I'm going to call an active athlete. It's the people in your neighborhoods that you see walking that have never been out of their house before. And, I think that anything right now political that you can do to disrupt, and I'm not a political guy, I'm really not, but I do see this as it's a media political game. I see it as, something that's not to be taken lightly, but I don't think by shutting down health food stores, if you go to Walmart, if you go to Target, if you go to the grocery, a lot of things that are out are the protein bars, are bars in general, are vitamin C, because in the grocery store, they don't carry a large variety of vitamin C and antioxidants. And this is what they're saying that we need to fight this thing. But yet the governor of Colorado wants to shut it down, but leave Walmart open, leave Target open, leave grocery open. So if it's a place to get food, you can't close it down. I mean, it's where people are getting some of their food supplies right
now. So what are your top sellers right now at Europa? I mean, what are people looking at? Immune builders, things that strengthen the immune system? I mean, how are your shakes doing, your bars?
Well, it's funny. So the immune boosters and things, they went pretty quick. What really has gone fast for us are the chips, the functional foods. It's amazing. Egg Whites International for us kicked up because you just couldn't find eggs for a time being. Clean Eats, which is a meal prep company that we can ship. Clean Eats ships 30 frozen meals that will last 8 months in a freezer.
Wow.
Those kicked up. I mean, Clean Eats and Egg Whites International really exploded, but the functional foods, the chips, the bars, the cookies, everything in that brand. Protein powders did okay. Pre-workouts, as you can imagine, just died, even though I felt it kind of funny that, we were trying to let gym owners know, look, just because they closed your gym, you're still a retail location. You can still sell bars and you can sell protein drinks and you can sell things that the grocery and Target and Walmart were running out of. Keep your doors open. Keep, because they wouldn't allow them to draft anymore, but they could sell it. And I would still see gym owners going, come down and get your pre-workout, 20 off pre-workouts today. And it's like, nobody's taking pre-workouts right now. I mean, you don't need a pre-workout to go run. So, you know,
Right.
pre-workouts have really just seen a major decline.
Very interesting.
Yeah, drink sales are way up. You know, it's funny, even the energy drink, and I've talked to a lot of the energy drink manufacturers that sell into the C-store, convenience store category, those sales are down because we're not working. People aren't stopping to get gas because they're staying at home. So it's even the energy drink, but the protein shakes have really kicked off, and protein powders, because people just couldn't get enough protein. Because if you went, you couldn't find chicken, you couldn't find meat, you couldn't find your sources of protein, and people had to go to that next source, which was protein powders and protein bars.
So, I mean, you and I come from about the same time, and you know, in the day, we didn't have the gyms that they have nowadays. We did a lot of our stuff smaller. It wasn't. Sometimes you had to go miles to find places. I don't know about you. I remember the '70s, and we did have some places, but not like we do today. We had to do a lot of things out of the house. I don't know about you, but I'm finding that I'm going back to myself to a lot of those things that we grew up with. You know, bands, pull-ups, push-ups, you know, things like that. I mean, we do have the foundation from powerlifting and from bodybuilding, but I found myself going back to those things because you don't have anything open over here.
No, and I think, you know, and what we're seeing is guys who work out. I'm not saying the CrossFit community, the F45, the boot camp type of workouts, but guys who work out in gyms, I can promise you they're not going outside doing push-ups or pull-ups, and they're not taking kettlebells and swinging them. They're just not training. And if they are, if they do have a home gym, nowhere the intensity or nowhere the level that their body needs to keep up with what it was doing 8 weeks ago. So I think, you know, getting the gyms back open, I mean, I've heard a lot of people saying this will close gyms down. I mean, if you take a look, we are so locked into, not just now, you know, we're locked into our televisions, we're locked into our little communication devices, we're locked into our cubicles, that the gyms really are our escape. And that's our social networking. And it's the reason why group fitness has exploded in this country, because people are working from their homes. Not during this coronavirus, but we're living in our own little worlds, and that's our only means of communication. So I do believe that when the gyms open back up, I do think that people will go back. I think they will go back cautiously. I think they will want to know, you know, what's going to happen. I don't think they're going to flood in like everybody thinks they will. But I think that when we try to go back, because we've been so accustomed, think about it, I opened my first gym in '85, and it was full. I mean, we had deadlift platforms and we had machines. It's tough when I go downstairs to my basement for the last 8 weeks and try to work out. And it's like, I have one machine that I do 25 exercises on. And I walk out of there and it's like, I was just a defeated workout. I mean, we have a gym at Europa, and I look at that gym with, like, you know, with sad eyes, because it's like, man, I just want to get back in and touch all the equipment and just get to know.
What kind of equipment do you have there at Europa?
So we've got a little bit of difference of, you know, we're fortunate that we've got a lot of friends in the industry, especially in the equipment industry. So we've got a lot of hammer. We've got some Icarian. We try to keep across. We've got some bear squats. We've got assorted treadmills. We've got 2 different kind of rowers. We've got 4 different kind of cardio pieces. So again, we don't try to stick to one brand, only because we have so many different friends in the industry. I don't want to alienate.
Sure. You're very fair.
Yeah, if you walk into my office, you're just not one brand of supplements. I've got like 150 different bottles scattered around my office.
I like the way you think.
Yeah.
I really do. I've always admired you, and I've always admired Europa. When I had my gyms, we ordered all of our stuff through you guys.
No, thank you. We try to stay on the cutting edge and stuff. It really did help that when Jeff and I first got started, I'm still an IFBB pro judge. I'm still an NPC judge. I still stay active in it. A lot of my friends still are the hardcore local gym owners. I talked to Steve Weinberg the other day. You know, we try to stay in close contact with each other and keeping our grassroots. And even my partner, Jeff, I mean, he was one of the best bodybuilders on the East Coast. And I mean, he really
I saw pictures of him.
Yeah. I mean, he was a phenomenal bodybuilder, and we still try to stay close to that, even though the mindset has changed. It's still the working out. It's still people trying to be healthy. So we do try to stay in the forefront of that, and we still try to see what the future is going to be, and we try to plug holes in where there's holes in the industry now.
So they're saying that this thing, in some cases, could go in different parts of the country. Sometimes they're saying, I've heard by the 4th of July. I've also heard maybe till the end of the year, a lot of things are going to be postponed. And then next year, everybody should be planning to do their events starting next year, because it looks like this year's pretty much gone. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually think that 2020 is a mulligan. I think we just got to sit back. I really don't think that.
I've never heard that. That's good. I like that. 2020 is the mulligan.
Well, I mean, again, I think they'll open gyms. I think they just announced that Broward County down in Miami will open up phase 1. I think you've got Tennessee, South Carolina starting to open phase 1 already. So I think they're going to let them back on a limited basis. And again, this comes down to the gym owners and the protocols that they have. I think that if we don't figure out how to get these gyms open safely, I think that they will close the gyms down and gyms will open up in phase 5. I think that if we cannot figure it out, but hopefully the gym owners that I've talked to are, and what they're not doing, they are talking about what they've done. A lot of them, they've taken the time. My daughter and her fiance have a yoga studio, and they took time to move some stuff around, to clean bathrooms like they've never been cleaned. But it's not just about painting walls. People want to know, look, what are you doing to make it safe for me to come back? And I think that they have to reassure people coming back. But I do think that people are going to be on a limited basis, be able to get into retail, get into the gyms, get back into life as we know it. We've postponed the Europa game Orlando until next July. Because of the athletes. We have over 10,000 athletes that compete at the Europa Games. It's not fair for them to say, hey, look, we're just going to wait and wait and wait. And then 2 days, 3 days, 2 weeks before the competition, cancel it. So, you know what? I mean, I don't think you'll see many group gatherings. NFL, honestly, will tell us what we're going to do. If they allow people back to NFL games, then we will start opening up, being able to get together in large groups. So, I mean, I don't see it this year. I think that if we get back to large groups, that'll be phase 3. And I don't think you'll see phase 3 until August, September maybe, which again falls right into football season to when it starts, if it starts on time.
So I didn't realize Europa is there a connection to the NFL? Do you do sponsors for the NFL at all?
We don't sponsor. We supply a lot of the NFL teams. We supply quite a few of the collegiate teams. For the last 5 years, I was what they call the head size coach for Appalachian State University. Last year, I did help University of Louisville, even though it's a whole different program. There's a lot more at Louisville to offer the students that are already there than an Appalachian State does. Right now, the coaches at the collegiate level would like to get the players back in July. Talking to a few athletic directors, I think realistically players won't come back till August. But I think what you're going to find, and the same with the NFL, is that I think they're going to get players for 3 weeks, just like it was back in our days when you showed up to camp, which was 3 weeks before school started. And I've got a feeling that that's what's going to happen. But what these coaches and athletic directors don't understand is that because we've lived through this high protein world for the last 20 plus years, we've been able to fully fuel an athlete where the soft tissue injuries are really far and few between. Because they haven't had these kids since almost February, and now you bring them in to 3 weeks before season starts, and we've been shipping some of the colleges, well, quite a few colleges have us shipping protein powders directly to the players. But it's nowhere what they're used to have been taking while they were in college. Well, what happens is the level of coaching won't change when these kids return. The strength coaches haven't been able to train them properly. They haven't been able to fuel them properly or feed them properly. I think you're going to see more soft tissue injuries in football this year than has ever happened in the last 10, 15 years since, well, actually,
Wow.
last 5 years since protein has been able to be a bigger part of collegiate and the pro level.
So protein's made a huge difference, and also collagen, of course, and other things that are good for the. There was a period of time where there was, I don't know if it's true or not, but there was athletes that were getting muscle tears, and that was maybe 5 years ago with creatine. Since then, there seems to be less of those types of injuries. Can you explain why?
Well, you know what I mean. And if you talk with Dr. Jose Antonio with the ISSN, you know, he'll tell you that the best product that any athlete could ever take is creatine. There was so much bad press on creatine, kind of like tryptophan 20 years ago when 30 people died from tryptophan, but it was later found to be a bad batch. You know, creatine, the people who died with creatine, there were a lot of other issues with creatine, but I think creatine does so much. And honestly, personal opinion, I think they're going to find out that creatine will help minimize concussions. If you find out one of the things creatine does, it strengthens the brain cavity. Well, if you can strengthen that brain cavity, Jose Antonio will tell you the best time to start giving a kid creatine is day one. And the reason day one is because the number one injuries in babies is falling down his head injuries. But personally, I feel like that they will find out that creatine will protect the brain cavity. And I'm not a physician. I'm not a scientist.
Interesting.
I've seen what creatine has done, and I've seen how creatine works in athletes. And, you know, the NCAA still bans creatine, and it just baffles me. But 5 years ago, NCAA banned protein. You could give a kid as much carbs as you want, but you couldn't give him protein. And my defense of that is, last thing you need to give a college kid is more carbs. I can promise you that kid gets enough carbs in the day, but we weren't giving athletes. So if you take a look 5 years post, our linemen were fat. They were just big fat guys. Yet they were trying to take big fat guys and see how high they could jump or plyometric training, right? Well, then they find out, well, shoot, you got to be strong to be able to push another 320, 340-pound guy around. So then we bring the onset of protein in, but they still didn't understand how to use protein for an athlete. And up until the last 5 years, what we did at Appalachian State, we took a program that was doing nothing and turned it into a program that is one of the best programs in the United States. So, and we did it more off of what the strength coach can do, because if you understand protein, it all comes back from a bodybuilder. You know, how many bodybuilders do you really know that are hurt? Now, they may tear a bicep or they may tear something, but they're trying to do 200-pound curls, so they tear it. But on the whole, bodybuilders are pretty healthy muscle-wise, and they're strong. Well, it's because we intake so much protein powder. Well, if you apply that principle to an athlete, if I can get an athlete rehydrated with protein powder, so when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he's completely recuperated from what the strength coach did yesterday. Well, guess what? That strength coach can kick his ass today, and we can recuperate him today, and he can kick his ass tomorrow. Now you have some stud athletes that are bigger, stronger, faster, and explosive power still comes from muscle. It doesn't come from fat. So I think what we've been able to find out with the proteins is incredible. And they're supplying protein now to the kids. But NCAA didn't allow protein powder 5 years ago. They still don't allow creatine, and creatine is going to be one of the better products for any athlete.
Like I said, you and I come from about the same period of time. I don't disagree with you. Not too long ago, I had an interview with Herschel Walker. He's one of those athletes that you just never forget. And a lot of the things that he was doing didn't require weights. He was doing 1,500 push-ups a day. He was doing sprinting. I mean, of course, then again, probably a small percentage of Herschel Walkers that are running around the earth. But he built his body up eating good, clean protein, and he didn't get really a lot of injuries in his career. The athlete of today, I mean, I wonder how much the athlete of today could learn from somebody from a Herschel Walker from the past, because, I mean, he was, not too long ago, was even in MMA for a short period of time. It did pretty well.
Oh, I think you're going to find that, you know, again, Herschel was so much further advanced, only because Herschel was like the few people who understood nutrition. You know, back when we first started, you got to remember, man, we were doing liver tablets. We were taking amino capsules. We would take 15 capsules and see how many we could shove in our mouth. And that still doesn't equal 1 scoop of protein powder that we have today.
Right. Right.
So early in the early 80s, there was egg protein out, and we all remember what egg protein would do. If you were married, your wife hated you. It was soft. Right?
You had to leave the door. You had to leave the window open at nighttime.
God, it made a man proud. It was just really. But what we found out is that that egg protein powder that was made in the 80s, that was 20% egg protein, 80% maltodextrin.
Okay.
And when we questioned the manufacturer on it, he goes, "Oh, no. The egg that's in there is 100%. So if you remember, all during the 80s, and if you remember bodybuilding, it was Mega Mass 2000. We ate and ate and ate, but we ate carbs because we were all taking every available drug that was out there. So we would get to 260, 290, 300. But then when it was coming time to trim down, we'd get back down to 221. Bodybuilders today are 300 and they diet down to 296 because their muscle tissues are so few. We built bodies in the 80s on carb powders, where today they build it on protein powder, but we didn't have the availability of protein. Our protein, again, came from liver tablets and 2,200 milligram tablet aminos that when it came out still probably had 1,000 milligrams of protein still in it because it wouldn't break down in the stomach. We just didn't have the knowledge that these kids have today to train. And the bodybuilding world understands it. The athletic community doesn't understand it.
So what's your take on the new thing that there was a documentary recently out about how vegetarianism is the way to go? And even Arnold is promoting being a vegetarian now, but Arnold's a different Arnold now than when Arnold was training during that period of time.
Well, so here's my theory on that. Both the guy that they did on the Olympic athlete and Arnold weren't vegans when they won all their medals and competed. Right? It's
right.
Great. And I'm a believer. So I've tried to move to a few more plant-based proteins, especially as I've gotten a lot older. It doesn't seem like my stomach can handle a lot of the whey proteins. There's a couple that it seems to do okay with. I just know that it just doesn't have all your essential proteins. And I don't think that you can build muscle on a plant-based protein. I don't care what the what the author of the vegan diet said, or even the plant-based. I just don't think you can build muscle with it. I think at that point you have to substitute in, and I'm fine with people who don't eat meat. I think that that's all on their own. But when you have athletes that come back later and said, "Well, I'm a vegan or plant-based now," well, you weren't then. And there's videos of Arnold. If you watch Pumping Iron, got a steak that big. It's bigger than his head. So, in the day that it took him to build the muscle, in the day that the athlete needed to compete, he had to follow in with a full protein powder, either a whey or an egg or meat.
I totally agree with you, by the way. So, I got more out of this interview than I expected, by the way.
Sorry.
I knew you were good, but this has been a really good interview. I don't know, what your thoughts are. I thought we've gotten a lot of very good information that we can share with our YouTubers and everybody on Instagram and Facebook. Would you come back again sometime?
Do what?
Would you come back sometime as a guest?
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah. I think you got great information, and I think this is what people want to hear and need to hear. By the way, you look great. So what are you doing with your training and your nutrition during this time?
So I just had my 3rd surgery on my left shoulder in February. I just gotten in the mix. So 2 years ago, I had torn bicep tendon, torn pec, which they found was an old pec tear, but they couldn't get the bicep tendon to reattach on the outer shoulder, so they had to anchor it on my pec. I had a torn bicep, torn labrum, and 2 bone spurs. So I had that surgery, and then I had my right one done, and then the bone spurs and arthritis came back into this right shoulder, so I had it done again, but then I had stem cell done. They did stem cell, and when I talked to the doctor, he said, "Look, man," he goes, "insurance doesn't pay for the stem cell." He said, "So, but the problem is once you reach 50, you can't get stem cell out of bone marrow anymore. It's got to come out of fat cells." So we have to put you to sleep. So he goes, we're going to go ahead and do your shoulder. And he said, man, we'll hit you any place you want to hit because they don't charge you for the injection. They charge you for the harvest. So I had him shoot stem cell into my left shoulder, right shoulder, my right knee, which has been bone on bone. And then when I stand on the field for a long time, the top of my foot hurt. So they did stem cell in left shoulder, right knee, and top of my foot. I couldn't even walk on my knee. I'm now at almost perfect bend on my knee.
Wow.
My left shoulder, it was racked. I mean, it's come along so much better. My right shoulder, there's zero pain anymore. So the last 5 years has spent at least part of the year under surgery. It's sad because it's tough when you start to reach 45, close to 50. Are you familiar with the term sarcopenia? So sarcopenia is when your body goes into the dying stage, and it basically says, look, you don't need muscle to live. You need, especially as you get older. That's why you see older men are a lot more frail because their bone weakens up. So they don't need your body just sheds the muscle. So it's tough when you're trying to keep muscle on, and the only therapy I do right now is I do testosterone therapy, and that's it. It's funny, when I was in my 20s, I was dying to get it. Now that I'm in my 50s, I have to have it, right? So, but I don't do enough that will keep the muscle on. So, but I'm fighting sarcopenia, and now that the gyms are closed, I'm training downstairs. I can't train as hard, so I'm just battling. Plus, man, I guess got to get a haircut. I mean, usually I keep a high and tight, but
I could give you one if you were here. I could give you one like I have. It works really well and it's fast. And
dude, there's too many bald guys at Europa right now. I can't.
So the stem cell things worked out for you.
Man, I would advise it to anybody.
Very interesting. Might be another subject for another show.
Yeah, let's do it.
I appreciate you so much, Eric Hillman from Europa. What's a good website?
Again, it's europasports.com. It's pretty easy. Keep up with the Europa games. I think, I hate it for all the promoters out there. It does look like that, nobody knows what's going to happen with the date of the Olympia, so that there's changes with that. I think you might see some video. Like I told Dan Solomon, I said, Dan, it may not be bad to have social distancing in the auditorium. You probably won't see an expo. I mean, it depends on how far it goes. You might do social distancing for people who can come, and then do pay-per-view for $5. If there's 1 million people that can watch worldwide, at least this year, because it's not, I think next year everything's going to change. I do think because it's an election year, I think some things are being done that may not have been done if it wasn't an election year, but I do think that after the election, we have to go back to living our lives. I mean, I lived in.
I agree 100% with you.
Well, I mean, I was 7 years old in 1968 when the flu hit for the first time. 2 million people died. They didn't shut businesses down. Of course, they didn't have the social media. They didn't have the media that they have today. They didn't have the panic. And my mom and dad are 87, 88 years old. And if they would get the flu right now, they would have a tough time battling the flu. And I do think that people who are prone to the coronavirus taking out, I think they need to take extra precautions. But until we can come up with with some type of an antibody or a vaccine that will slow this down, we just can't. We can't lay off millions of people and just stop our economy. You just can't do it.
I talked to a couple of businesses across the country today that had to lay off half their staff.
Yeah, I mean, I've got friends who, I mean, if you take a look at all the gyms, they just can't afford to pay them all. It's just, I mean, it's tough.
It is tough. And you know what we're not hearing is how many people are dying from the flu.
Yeah.
Why aren't we hearing that?
Yeah. Well, again, I hate to say it's media driven, but I mean, it's media driven. But it's funny. I don't think that when they talk about the number of people who have it, when you get better, they don't pull that number off.
Right. I
agree
with you.
It's always going to go up.
I agree with you. Thank you so much, Eric Hillman from Europa. I appreciate everything that you shared with us today, and I got way more out of this interview than I even imagined.
It was good talking to you, man. It's good to see your face again.
Well, from what you can remember, I think last time I had more hair.
And I had less.
You take care of yourself.
See you, buddy. Good to see you.
Okay, brother.
Thanks,
Okay, everybody,
bye-bye.
thank you so much for being on Brett Davis Unleashed at IQ Podcast in beautiful Coronado at Attorney King Studios. My guest today was the legendary Eric Hillman from Europa. It's an honor having him on the show. I want to thank everybody, including my sponsors. Thank you, Attorney King, for what you do. Indian Motorcycle of San Diego, thank you so much. And Cosmopolitan Restaurant and Hotel. God bless everybody and stay healthy.